Hi, welcome to No Movies in Hell. I'm Chris Geiger.
Hi, I'm LaQuasca. Scott. Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
In this episode, we are reviewing The Green Knight.
And we saw this movie a while ago. It came out several months ago. I saw it in the theater. You're nodding.
Yeah, I saw it in theater as well. Probably, gosh, it's not on my calendar. I want to say about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Oh, that's not that long ago. I feel like I saw it maybe a couple months ago. Like, how long has it been out?
So I saw it at Nighthawk, and I would have to say that they've had a single showing for about 3 weeks now. So
Okay.
it's like I don't know if it's there now, but it definitely was there for an extended period of time.
Wow. I thought The Green Knight seemed like a very art house sort of movie. Was it nominated for anything?
I don't think yet because it came out this year. Or you mean like go to a festival?
Yeah, like can
I'm actually not sure.
I'm not either. But let me pull up our ratings slide just so everyone can see it while we discuss.
I feel like this was a fun art house film. Like I can't wait to get into it. There's a lot of things that make me laugh.
So were you familiar with the story before?
I was not, but I guess like peripherally, yes, but I did not read the story. But I think upon seeing, trailers for it, was definitely interested in like kind of the mood and taking everything in. Was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I like Dev Patel. I have not seen him in anything recently, unfortunately. I just remember him from Skins a very long time ago.
So even though I gave this a 20 out of 30, and in our rating system, 20 is average, I do not like this movie. And I
Okay.
waited to tell you that because I,
I,
I didn't want to say, right? Like, I don't like to tell people before they see a movie how I feel about it if it's not positive.
okay.
Which I guess now you'll know in the future if I don't say anything that it's not positive. But I didn't like it.
Hey, well, I would love to hear your why.
Sure, there were a lot of things that I think were done very well. Production quality, exceptionally high. Cast was good. Like, right, like I went into it really having high expectations, which is not a formula for success a lot of times. But cinematography was beautiful, production was beautiful, costumes, hair and makeup. I thought they did a good job for the type of movie that it was. I just didn't like the story. It didn't make sense to me in a lot of ways. It seemed like it could have been at least a half hour shorter. Movies like this make me think of the Matthew Barney Cremaster series cycle,
Mm,
Cremaster cycle, like where it's a lot of very interesting visual things happening. And if that's all I was expecting, then great. But I really wanted a more like I wanted more story. I wanted a story that made more sense. And it just didn't seem to tie together.
I hear you on the story not tying together, but I think that's why I like it because it wasn't so direct, right? It was very fantastical. I thought the casting was pretty good. I like that Dev Patel was the main character. I like the usage of Alicia Vikander. I like that it's an A24 produced film because the woman who plays the queen, I wrote this down, Katie Dickey or Kate Dickey, is like the most A24 face I've ever seen. She plays it well. She played the queen. She was the mom in The Witch. I was like, oh, I recognize that lady, A24 face. This is going to be good. It's going to be a mood that kind of set the tone. And I love the cinematography. I love the production. I love like the weird moments where there's giants that just come out of nowhere. And I just felt like it was just a different reinterpretation of the King Arthur stories, kind of telling that, the path less traveled when it came to the end. I guess like the foreshadowing I thought was really good. I just thought it was all over the place. Maybe this was like the movie that I needed to just be like, you know what? It's okay. It's okay that things aren't in a linear path. Lots of things have not been in a linear path in this past couple, like 19 months. And it's okay to like blow it up and just have it be and like have all these weird interpretations of what things should be and like the different challenges and the different milestones. And that's what I really liked about it.
So I feel like I can get behind those sorts of things, but I just in other movies, but I just couldn't hear like there were decisions that were made that just they didn't seem logical, right? Like the when he runs into the thieves out in
Yeah.
the woods, that's neither his decisions in that scenario nor their decisions in that scenario made sense to me.
It made sense to me is like you can't be so forthcoming with folks when you're trying to get somewhere. You're like you're going to run into hurdles, and especially if you that moment where like it was a battlefield and there's just that one person that's like actually okay, I would be sus. I'd be like, look, why are you still alive? And there's like a bunch of dead people, and then not and then like that exchange of like, because you look this way, you should be able to help support me. Oh, I don't think that you're giving me enough. Like it's one of those things of, I guess life lessons of like you're leaving, you have to go on this quest and your naivete is being essentially taken away and tested. And it happens all the time. It's just, he had to learn for himself, I guess. But yeah, it's like not everybody's going to help you on that path. But also, if I guess if I think about it, if that character were to help him, then the movie would have probably been like 45 minutes shorter.
Well, not that the character would help him. I just felt like it didn't make sense to me. So he's going out on this quest by himself.
Mhm.
So he wears the most ostentatious outfit I've ever seen a traveler in that scenario, right? Like he's wearing like this bright yellow cape. It just screams like I am a wealthy target. And he's going out by himself. Okay, I get it. We want to make it pretty, but it doesn't make sense. So sometimes I can let pretty for not making sense go. But in this scenario, I felt like it was a key part of the story. Like he's going out on this journey, he's going by himself. People are outfitting him, right? Like they've given him special things to take with him. Would they not have said, like, perhaps you should wear something brown? Fine. But then he runs into this thief who then takes things from him, but doesn't kill him. He just ties him up and leaves him there. That doesn't make sense to me either. There were many decision points along the way throughout the story that I was just like, why?
Well, I think like going to the ostentatious thing is it's a matter of self-awareness, right? Like if you're in a kingdom, you probably don't know what's going on the outside. It's like, look, I just got to get to the Green Knight to like reason with this guy at some point. Them not knowing what the status, or at least like keeping that away from him, of the status or awareness of what's going on in different kingdoms, is just lack of lack of awareness and like who you'll meet along the way. Kind of fitting that they put him in. I love those colors. Like it's like a mustard yellow and like really emerald green, and it was just so beautiful. But yeah, to your point, like had they set him up for success, he would have been in more muted tones.
From a visual perspective, if you're just going to show me pretty pictures for 2 hours, okay, but that's not why I came to the movie. That's why I go to the art museum.
There was art, Chris. He
There
was painted.
was. Yes, he was painted. And the whole like situation at that castle also not making a ton of sense to me.
It was a wonderful red herring. It was, yeah, it's all about, wasn't it all about like the seven sins, for lack of a better like plot? It was temptation, it was greed, and then it was basically forecasted for him of like, this is what your life could be like. I mean, that's how I saw it, as like, oh, all of these challenges are being represented to you to break your spirit, to level you as a human. So hopefully, when you go to your last duel, like you can say that you had a good life, or like you learned your lessons or whatever.
Yep. I totally agree with you. It wasn't doing it for me.
So you would definitely, if this movie came on television, it probably, you probably wouldn't even watch it. For me, I'd probably like set it up in the background as I was like cooking something or maybe crocheting or whatever. You're just like, no.
No. I'd rather take a chance on something new than reinvest in this one.
I agree. But I do hope, I guess, maybe sometime next year we learn that it's nominated for costume category at least.
Agree. I will say she had some, like the woman in the when he goes into the castle during his
Mhm.
journey, like she had some amazing jewelry pieces. Like I was focused in on that hardcore. But now you have my attention. Like her earrings were awesome, like beautiful thing. I thought that was good, but I also thought that was good in keeping with the movie. So like it
Yeah.
wasn't a highlighted story point. It was just like it served its purpose for establishing her as a very wealthy woman at that period.
Yeah. I
So
also think that it was like a reflection, for lack of a better word, of the poor woman that he was with.
hmm,
So it was like, oh, he was projecting. So I bet that woman like actually looked different, but this is what he wanted to see. And so therefore it was like even more of a temptation and a lesson learned. But I like it. I hope that, it's nominated down the road. Would I watch it again? Maybe if I'm bored, but I have a lot of stuff to watch.
right, like that was the other thing. Like it seemed like it was a projection. Like you couldn't tell what was a projection when he was in the forest tied up and he was going through like the scene where his body decays. Like
Mhm.
when you're in it, you think, oh, his body's decaying, but then you realize, then he wakes up and he's okay, and so you're like, oh, all right, I guess that was okay. That was just him dreaming or whatever, having this thing, and then he eats those mushrooms
Yeah.
that he finds on the side of the rock, and then you don't know what he's really experiencing or what he's hallucinating. Yeah, I had a hard
I,
time with that too.
I like it. I like it because I was like, oh, well, that action, especially like the scene where you see the body decay. And I was like, maybe that it's showing you what he could have done, but then or like his mental state. And then he realizes, like, this is not the way that I'm going to go out. And this is what I got to do. And the another point was when he went to the cabin in the woods and the woman, and it was like, find my head. And I'm like, he's talking to a ghost essentially. They made it seem as though, was she there, was she not there? And then you go to the lake and it's like, find my head. And I'm like, what are the chances that there's just one head in there? There could be many.
That
So I was
thought
like,
did not occur to
okay.
me.
I mean, if there are a bunch of bodies in a field and it just seems as though every time you turn around, there's some type of like tension between people, or like there's some type of duel or whatever with swords, there's a good chance that there's not just one head in there. I don't know.
I like
But
that.
I was like, okay, this is definitely one, a challenge. Two, he's going to be the better person. Oh, and by the way, like the people that he met earlier, were involved in some way. I like that. It's like, oh, yeah, he took the mushroom. He's probably hallucinating, not sure. Is this Fox with him, someone from his past or someone, a spirit guide? I just liked it all. It just made you think, as opposed to other films where it's just like, you know what? I'm just going to take it all in. I don't care. I'm going to walk out of here and not even think about it.
Oh, that's interesting because to me, it was like other movies make me think more. I guess because I couldn't tell what he was really going through or what was just mentally happening to him with the hallucinations. I sort of discounted all of it.
Mm.
All right, like I just watched some guy's dream for 2 hours. And now I'm going to go about my day. Where like I feel that other movies, like I really think about them more. I know you didn't see the card counter, but that one, like the next day, I was like, oh, and like if I were in that situation, what would I have done? I think because this was so removed from anything that I've experienced, that I was just like, well, okay, that was that. And I've isolated that in my head as this
Yeah.
thing that I watched happened to someone else. Where like in other movies, I could sort of say like, oh, well, there, but for the grace of God, go on.
Well, Chris, have you ever, I don't know, gone somewhere, dressed up super nice or gone like travel to some faraway land where you clearly stood out and you were like, hey, I'm trying to go to X, Y, and Z. And someone was like, oh, yeah, pay me and I will show you the way. That's kind of how I interpreted that of like being an outsider going to this place. You just want to go about your day. And some person is like, wait a minute, you look like you have money. And I'm like, oh, this is red flag.
So that part of the movie I could identify with, but the find my head cabin in the woods thing, no.
That doesn't happen to you when you go to an Airbnb. You're trying to unsolved mysteries. Like, I will be at peace if you find out like where the body is. Okay.
Most of the time, my biggest mystery is like, what is that in the garbage? Like, how long has it been there?
Well, I guess that the test of the head test, I guess, is more or less like, are you going to, before you basically stay in my house and not pay for anything and sleep in my bed, like, here's the history. And like, can you just do right by me and my soul by finding my head? Like, can you at least do that?
Yep.
And possibly find my killer. So it was just kind of like, all right, there are good people in the world or spirits in the world, and let me try to help this one.
Well, if I ever come upon a good spirit, I would like to believe that I would help them.
Yay. You're on your way to see the Green Knight.
All right. So do we have any closing thoughts about the Green Knight?
The Green Knight. I thought it was a above average film. Would I see this movie in hell? No, it's not going to hell.
I agree. I wouldn't send it to hell. I thought it was just an average movie for the type of movie that it is. I wouldn't watch it again. I probably wouldn't even recommend it to people. I'm not sorry I watched it.
I would recommend, but I would recommend it to friends who love to have abstract thinking, bring in the visuals, like people who love visuals and art and the like. I would definitely recommend this movie to them.
Awesome. Do we have anything to talk about or promote in this episode at the end?
Make sure to get your POAP for this episode. It will be up on all of our distribution points.
And we will have our next episodes up probably in about a week. At this point, that seems to be our posting rate. Look forward to seeing you then. Bye.
Bye.